Have you ever stared at the ceiling, listening to the quiet of the night, feeling the weight of every thought pressing against your eyelids, wondering why sleep refuses to come? What if I told you that the answer isn't just in counting sheep or turning off your phone, but in understanding the deep dialogue your body has with the world around it? The subtle cues of light, the rhythm of your mind, the chemistry of your body, and the very nature of rest itself. Our bodies are not just collections of organs or neurons firing in isolation. They're living, breathing instruments tuned to the rhythm of the natural world. Every heartbeat, every cycle of respiration, every flutter of your eyelids is part of an intricate symphony orchestrated over millions of years of evolution. Yet, in modern life, these rhythms are often ignored, overridden, or silenced by artificial light, irregular schedules, and relentless mental stimulation. One of the most profound consequences of this disconnection is insomnia, the experience of being awake when your body desperately seeks sleep. To understand how to fall asleep naturally, we must first understand the hidden conductor of this symphony, the internal clock, scientifically known as a circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm is a cycle of roughly 24 hours that regulates not only our sleep and wakefulness, but also hormone production, body temperature, digestion, and even cellular repair. It is both astonishingly precise and incredibly delicate. At its core, the rhythm is synchronized by the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a tiny structure within the brain that receives signals primarily from the eyes. This means that light, the most ancient environmental cue, is the language your body understands best. Morning sunlight triggers a cascade of biological processes, signaling your brain to release cortisol, the hormone that sharpens alertness and primes your body for the day. Conversely, as daylight fades, the absence of light stimulates the release of melatonin, the hormone that gently guides you into the state of rest. Yet, in our modern world, the dialogue between our internal clock and the environment is constantly disrupted. Artificial light from screens, street lamps, and overhead fluorescence can trick the brain into thinking that night is still day, delaying melatonin production and leaving the body awake and restless. Even small exposures, such as checking your phone or watching a late-night show, send conflicting signals to the circadian system, creating a subtle tension between the time your mind believes it is and the time your body biologically knows it to be. Sleep difficulties, therefore, are rarely random. They are a reflection of this misalignment, a conversation between biology and behavior that has gone slightly off track. Realigning your internal clock requires more than intention. It requires practice and sensitivity to the natural cues your body has evolved to follow. Start with a simple yet profound act of light exposure. In the morning, open your curtains, step outside, and allow the sunlight to flood your eyes, not just briefly, but fully. This is not a symbolic gesture. It is a physiological instruction, a way of telling your brain, day has arrived. The intensity, angle, and timing of sunlight all contribute to the strength of this signal. Even on cloudy days, the natural light is far more potent than any artificial substitute. Over time, consistent morning light exposure reinforces the circadian rhythm, making it easier for your body to recognize the transition to night when the sun sets. Evening practices are equally critical. As dusk approaches, begin to dim the lights, both physically in your environment and metaphorically in your mind. Consider the role of temperature as well. The human body's core temperature naturally decreases before sleep, a signal that prepares the brain and body for rest. Taking a warm shower, then allowing the body to cool afterward, mimics and amplifies this process. Reducing exposure to blue light from electronic devices further supports this cooling and winding down process, allowing melatonin levels to rise naturally. In this sense, aligning with your internal clock is not about following rigid rules. It is about creating conditions in which your biology can communicate clearly and effectively. The power of this alignment extends beyond the night. When your internal clock is in harmony with natural light cycles, you experience not only easier sleep, but more restorative sleep. Deep sleep phases are enhanced, memory consolidation improves, and cellular repair processes are optimized. Cognitive function during the day is sharper, mood regulation becomes steadier, and energy levels stabilize in ways that caffeine or stimulants can never replicate. In essence, aligning with the circadian rhythm is not a superficial lifestyle hack. It is a profound intervention that honors the evolutionary wisdom embedded in every cell of your body. Scientific studies reinforce these principles. Research on shift workers, for example, demonstrates a tangible cause of circadian misalignment, higher rates of metabolic disorders, mood disturbances, and cardiovascular disease. Conversely, individuals who maintain consistent sleep-wake schedules and exposure to natural light exhibit enhanced health outcomes, resilience against stress, and greater psychological well-being. This is not coincidental. The circadian rhythm is a master regulator, influencing the timing of virtually every physiological process. When it is respected and nurtured, the benefits ripple outward, impacting every aspect of daily life. But the rhythm is not just a biological phenomenon. It is a deeply philosophical one. Consider how our ancestors lived in synchrony with the sun, rising with the dawn, working through daylight, and resting when darkness fell. Their bodies were attuned to seasonal changes, lunar cycles, and the subtle cues of nature. Insomnia, in this context, is not merely a disorder. It is a symptom of separation, a signal that modern life has pulled us away from the natural cadence our bodies are designed to follow. Reconnecting with this rhythm is both a scientific and existential act, a reminder that sleep is not a passive state, but an active conversation with life itself. Practical implementation involves conscious experimentation. Notice how your body responds to different patterns of light, meal timing, and activity. Track when you naturally feel sleepy without external interference. Gradually adjust your routines to support the signals your brain and body are sending. Small, consistent changes. Waking at the same time every morning, dimming lights an hour before bed, stepping outside for daylight exposure can produce profound improvements in sleep quality over weeks, not merely days. Patience is essential because the circadian system is deeply ingrained. It does not respond to abrupt or sporadic interventions. Furthermore, social cues play a subtle role. Meal times, social interaction, and even exercise patterns can reinforce or disrupt the circadian rhythm. Evening gatherings under bright artificial light, late-night meals, or irregular schedules all send mixed messages to your internal clock. Awareness of these influences allows you to design your environment and habits in a way that complements natural biology rather than competing against it. The principle is simple. The closer your daily patterns are to the natural signals of light and darkness, the smoother the transition into restful sleep. In essence, aligning your internal clock with nature is a multidimensional approach. It engages light, temperature, activity, social cues, and the philosophical understanding of your place in the natural world. It is not a single intervention, but a lifestyle attunement that invites you to listen carefully to your body, honor its signals, and create a rhythm that is coherent and harmonious. Sleep, in this context, becomes a reward of attentiveness and care, a state that arrives naturally when the body and mind are synchronized with the world they inhabit. Ultimately, the practice of aligning your internal clock is both scientific and poetic. It merges physiology with awareness, empirical evidence with lived experience. Every action taken to support this alignment, stepping into morning light, dimming evening illumination, observing consistent routines, is an act of respect for the intricate, ancient, and extraordinary system that governs our sleep, wakefulness, and overall health. By engaging with this rhythm thoughtfully and compassionately, we can not only restore our nightly rest, but also reconnect with the quiet, powerful, and regenerative cycles that define life itself. Even when the body is aligned with its internal clock, the environment in which we attempt to sleep can either support this delicate process or silently sabotage it. Sleep is not merely a function of the brain. It is a conversation between your physiology and your surroundings. The science of pre-sleep environment examines how light, sound, temperature, and even spatial arrangement communicate with the nervous system, subtly guiding the transition from wakefulness to rest. Understanding and optimizing these factors can be as important as any behavioral intervention, because the body is always listening, always responding, even to stimuli you barely notice. Light, once again, proves to be the most influential environmental cue. Our eyes contain not only photoreceptors for vision, but also specialized cells sensitive to specific wavelengths that regulate circadian rhythms. Blue light, prevalent in screens and LEDs, is particularly potent in suppressing melatonin secretion. This suppression delays the body's readiness for sleep, leaving the mind alert and the body in a state of physiological tension. Reducing blue light exposure in the evening, through dimmed lamps, screen filters, or avoiding devices altogether, provides a powerful signal that night is near. The effect is subtle yet profound, a gentle whisper to the brain, signaling that it is time to prepare for rest. Temperature is another silent communicator. The human body naturally experiences a drop in core temperature as it approaches sleep, facilitating the onset of deep, restorative stages. A room that is too warm or too cold can interrupt this process, preventing the body from entering these crucial phases. Studies suggest that a slightly cool environment, typically between 60 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit, supports the body's thermoregulatory rhythm, allowing sleep to deepen and prolong. Even small adjustments, like using breathable bedding or adjusting the thermostat, can make a tangible difference, aligning external conditions with internal physiology. Sound, often overlooked, is equally influential. Our nervous system is designed to detect subtle changes in the environment, a vestige of evolutionary survival mechanisms. Sudden noises trigger the startle response, elevating cortisol and interrupting sleep cycles. Continuous, low-level sounds, like a fan or white noise, can mask disruptive interruptions, creating a stable auditory backdrop that the brain interprets as safe and predictable. Silence, too, can be beneficial if the environment is already calm, but the key is consistency. By curating a stable, predictable soundscape, you communicate safety to your nervous system, allowing it to relax and disengage from the vigilance required during waking hours. Even the spatial arrangement of your sleep environment communicates with your mind and body. Clutter, chaotic colors, or uncomfortable bedding can create subtle stress cues, signaling the brain to remain alert. Minimalism and comfort are not merely aesthetic choices. They are forms of environmental empathy. Soft textures, calming colors, and ergonomically supportive surfaces reduce microstressors that can prevent relaxation. The environment becomes a partner in the process of sleep, gently coaxing the nervous system into a state of readiness. A pre-sleep routine, anchored in environmental consistency, reinforces these cues. The brain thrives on predictable patterns. Repetitive actions, such as dimming lights, playing soft music, or engaging in quiet reading signal that the transition from activity to rest is underway. These rituals leverage the brain's associative learning mechanisms, conditioning the mind to expect sleep under specific conditions. Over time, these environmental cues become potent triggers, initiating physiological changes that prime the body for rest, even before the first yawn emerges. Science offers compelling evidence for the power of environmental manipulation. Experimental studies demonstrate that individuals exposed to optimal pre-sleep conditions fall asleep faster, spend more time in deep sleep, and experience fewer awakenings during the night. Conversely, environments that ignore these principles, bright artificial lights, loud or inconsistent noise, excessive heat or cold, disrupt sleep architecture, reducing the restorative quality of rest and triggering downstream effects on mood, cognition, and metabolic health. The environment, in other words, is not neutral. It is a dynamic participant in the physiology of sleep. Yet, beyond science, there is a reflective dimension to creating a sleep-supportive environment. Preparing your space is a form of self-compassion, a ritualized acknowledgement that your body deserves conditions conducive to repair and renewal. It is an intentional act, one that transforms a bedroom from a mere location into a sanctuary, a place where the mind can relinquish control and the body can trust the signals of rest. This philosophical layer reinforces the biological one, integrating empirical understanding with lived experience and mindful presence. Lighting, temperature, sound, and space do not operate in isolation. They interact synergistically, shaping the brain's perception of safety and readiness. A dimly lit, cool, quiet, and organized room produces a multiplicative effect on relaxation, far beyond any single intervention alone. By consciously orchestrating these factors, we create conditions in which the body's natural sleep mechanisms can operate with clarity and efficiency. Sleep becomes not a struggle, but a natural consequence of environmental attunement, a process that aligns biology, psychology, and lived space. Even the timing of environmental cues matters. Evening rituals are most effective when consistent, signaling to the brain a predictable transition from wakefulness to rest. A sudden change, such as a late-night work session under bright light, can reset this delicate process, disrupting melatonin secretion, shifting circadian timing, and leaving the nervous system primed for alertness instead of sleep. Predictable patterns, by contrast, strengthen the neural pathways associated with relaxation, creating a feedback loop in which the environment and physiology mutually reinforce the drive toward rest. Ultimately, the science of pre-sleep environment teaches us that sleep is not merely the absence of activity, but the product of harmonious interaction between the body and the surrounding world. Every element, the gentle glow of a bedside lamp, the faint hum of a cooling fan, the firmness of a mattress, the calm order of the room, becomes a signal, a conversation in the silent language of biology. By paying attention to these cues, by shaping our surroundings with care and understanding, we can cultivate an environment that not only permits sleep, but actively encourages it, nurturing the nervous system, honoring biological rhythms, and restoring the restorative cycles that modern life often interrupts. Movement is often thought of as a domain of daytime energy, a series of actions designed to build strength, endurance, or skill. Yet the way we engage our bodies during the day has profound consequences for how we rest at night. Sleep and movement are deeply intertwined, two sides of the same physiological coin, each informing and enhancing the other. The nervous system, muscles, cardiovascular system, and even the mind all respond to quality and timing of physical activity, creating subtle cues that influence the depth and timing of sleep. Understanding this connection allows us to harness movement not merely as exercise, but as a tool for restorative rest. The human body evolved for rhythm and activity. Our ancestors were seldom sedentary. Their days were filled with walking, climbing, lifting, and subtle yet constant engagement with the environment. This natural movement created patterns of energy expenditure that the body learned to anticipate, balancing activity with the restorative demands of night. In modern life, prolonged sitting and irregular activity disrupt these patterns, leaving the body with unused energy and the nervous system with excess alertness when it is supposed to be winding down. Gentle movement, timed thoughtfully, serves as a signal to the body that activity is complete and that it is safe to transition into restorative processes. The type of movement matters. Vigorous activity too close to bedtime can elevate heart rate, increase adrenaline, and delay the natural decline in core body temperature that facilitates sleep. Conversely, moderate and mindful movements in the evening, such as stretching, yoga, or a slow walk, can help dissipate accumulated tension, signal relaxation to the nervous system, and prepare the mind for stillness. Stretching, for instance, engages both the musculoskeletal and nervous systems, releasing tightness accumulated from the day and activating the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest and repair. These gentle practices act as bridges, connecting the physical activity of the day with the restorative processes of the night. Scientific research supports the role of movement in promoting sleep quality. Studies indicate that individuals who engage in regular physical activity fall asleep more quickly, spend more time in deep sleep, and experience fewer nighttime awakenings. Exercise stimulates the production of endorphins, reduces stress hormones, and even helps regulate body temperature, all of which contribute to smoother transitions into sleep. However, timing and type are crucial. Intense late-night exercise may delay sleep onset, while movement earlier in the day primes the body for natural fatigue cycles in the evening. It is the orchestration, not merely the act of moving, that matters. Beyond physiology, there is a reflective aspect to movement. Gentle evening activity allows the mind to observe the body, creating a mindful awareness of sensations, breath, and energy flow. This awareness is calming, not distracting, fostering an intimate dialogue between mind and body that prepares both for rest. When we approach movement as a form of self-care rather than a performance metric, we engage neural pathways that signal safety and relaxation, reinforcing the body's readiness for sleep. The act becomes both scientific and meditative, a conscious tuning of physiology and awareness. Even small movements accumulated throughout the day can influence sleep. Standing, walking, or stretching at intervals counteracts the effects of prolonged sitting, improving circulation and reducing muscular stiffness. These micro-interventions, seemingly mundane, signal to the body that it has expended energy, aligning metabolic and cardiovascular systems with natural rhythms. The cumulative effect is subtle yet significant, demonstrating that sleep quality is not merely a function of the hours spent lying down, but the integrated activity patterns of the entire day. Another key element is breath. Movement intertwined with conscious breathing amplifies relaxation. Slow, deep inhalations and exhalations during gentle exercise or stretching reduce sympathetic nervous system activity, lower heart rate, and support the natural decline in cortisol that precedes sleep. Breath, in this sense, acts as both signal and tool, connecting the conscious mind to the autonomous processes of the body. This synergy between movement and breath exemplifies the elegance of human physiology, revealing how simple, deliberate actions can cascade into profound effects on sleep quality. Timing of movement, in harmony with circadian rhythms, further optimizes sleep. Morning and afternoon activity promote alertness and energy expenditure when wakefulness is needed, while evening gentle movement primes relaxation without overstimulation. Observing the body's responses, whether a walk leaves you refreshed or a session of stretches eases tension, encourages attunement to personal rhythms. This personalization is crucial, as the body signals are uniquely tuned. Sleep-promoting strategies must respect the individual variation in energy cycles, flexibility, and nervous system responsiveness. In essence, mindful movement transforms the body into an active participant in the process of sleep. Rather than viewing rest as a passive state to be forced or scheduled rigidly, movement becomes a tool that communicates completion, signals safety, and encourages physiological and mental relaxation. The interplay between activity and rest is continuous, fluid, and dynamic, reflecting the evolutionary wisdom embedded in the human body. Sleep is not an isolated event. It is a natural endpoint of a day thoughtfully lived, where motion, awareness, and rhythm converge to create readiness for restorative cycles. In practice, this means paying attention not only to structured exercise, but also to daily physical engagement. Gentle stretches before bed, mindful walking in the evening, or simple mobility routines can make the body receptive to sleep cues. By coupling these movements with conscious breathing and environmental considerations, one creates a seamless transition from wakefulness to rest. The body recognizes these signals, the nervous system responds, and the mind gradually releases the persistent tensions of thought, expectation, and stress. Ultimately, movement before sleep is a conversation between muscles and mind, nervous system and heart, energy and rest. It is rooted in science but infused with mindfulness, an elegant intersection of physiology and awareness. By honoring this connection, we can guide the body gently toward restorative sleep, cultivating not only physical health, but reflective appreciation for the intricate interplay between activity, environment, and the human need for rest. What we eat, and more importantly when we eat it, has a profound influence on the body's readiness for sleep. Nutrition is often considered in terms of energy, strength, or metabolism, yet it is equally a dialogue with the hormonal and nervous systems that govern rest. Every morsel of food triggers a cascade of chemical signals: insulin, glucose fluctuations, amino acids, and neurotransmitters that influence alertness, relaxation, and ultimately, sleep quality. Understanding this relationship allows us to treat nutrition not merely as sustenance, but as an active contributor to the nightly transition into restorative rest. Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats each play unique roles in sleep regulation. Certain amino acids, particularly tryptophan, are precursors to serotonin and melatonin, the neurotransmitters and hormones that facilitate relaxation and sleep onset. Foods rich in tryptophan, such as turkey, eggs, nuts, and seeds, provide the raw material for this biochemical pathway. Yet, timing matters as much as content. Consuming these nutrients too early in the day has minimal impact on evening rest, whereas incorporating them as part of a light evening meal or snack can subtly prime the brain for the natural rise in melatonin, enhancing sleep readiness. Carbohydrate timing also interacts with circadian rhythm. A balanced intake in the evening can modestly elevate insulin, which assists in the transport of tryptophan into the brain, supporting serotonin synthesis. However, excessive or heavy meals late at night can have the opposite effect, stimulating digestion and maintaining alertness when the body should be winding down. The digestive system itself is an active participant in sleep. It consumes energy, generates heat, and sends signals to the brain that can either encourage rest or perpetuate wakefulness. Understanding this interplay allows us to approach evening nutrition with subtlety and precision, aligning intake with biological rhythms rather than overriding them. Fats, particularly omega-3 fatty acids, influence inflammatory pathways and production of neurochemicals, which in turn affects sleep regulation. While they're less directly linked to immediate sleep onset than carbohydrates or proteins, their cumulative impact on neurological health, circadian integrity, and overall metabolic function contributes to more consistent and restorative sleep over time. Incorporating sources such as fatty fish, flaxseed, or walnuts into daily nutrition supports long-term sleep quality, illustrating how sustained dietary patterns interact with the body's nightly cycles. Hydration is another critical consideration. Dehydration can disrupt sleep, producing leg cramps, dry mouth, and subtle rises in stress hormone levels that maintain alertness. Yet excessive fluid intake too close to bedtime leads to interrupted sleep through nocturnal urination. The timing of water consumption, therefore, must be considered carefully, balancing hydration with the body's natural cycles. It is a delicate negotiation between physiological need and practical comfort, highlighting the nuanced ways in which daily choices echo into the night. Caffeine, perhaps the most widely consumed stimulant, illustrates the precision required in nutritional timing. Its half-life extends across several hours, varying between individuals, meaning that a cup of coffee in the late afternoon may still be active in the bloodstream at bedtime. Caffeine blocks adenosine receptors, preventing the accumulation of the chemical signals that encourage sleepiness. Understanding this pharmacological effect is crucial. The same substance that supports wakefulness and alertness during the day can silently sabotage the evening transition to rest. The timing, amount, and individual sensitivity all matter, demonstrating the intricate biochemical conversation between diet and sleep physiology. Alcohol provides a contrasting example. While small amounts can create a temporary sense of relaxation, it disrupts sleep architecture by suppressing deep sleep and increasing the likelihood of nighttime awakenings. The effect is deceptive, masking physiological tension only to fragment rest later. Again, timing and quantity are key, emphasizing that what seems helpful in the moment may, in fact, undermine the restorative processes of the night. Nutrition, in this sense, is not merely functional. It is an active participant in the orchestration of sleep. Scientific research supports the concept of chrononutrition, the study of how timing and composition of meals interact with circadian biology. Regular, appropriately timed meals reinforce circadian stability, promoting predictable rises and falls in insulin, cortisol, and melatonin. Irregular or misaligned meals create metabolic stress, altering energy balance, hormone cycles, and ultimately, the ability to transition smoothly into sleep. Evening nutrition becomes a signal to body. When approached thoughtfully, it says, rest now is safe, repair and regeneration can proceed. When neglected, it whispers instead, alertness remains, recovery is secondary. The reflective aspect of nutritional timing extends beyond biochemistry. Choosing what and when to eat in the evening encourages mindfulness, a gentle attention to how the body and mind respond to intake. Observing energy levels, digestion, and subtle shifts in relaxation fosters self-awareness, teaching us to interpret signals that often go unnoticed. It transforms eating into a dialogue, where each decision communicates either alignment or dissonance with the natural sleep cycle. Food becomes a tool for restoration, not merely consumption. Practical implementation involves creating patterns that support both biological and reflective awareness. Small, nutrient-dense evening meals with balanced protein and complex carbohydrates, moderate hydration, and avoidance of stimulants or heavy fats prime the body for rest. Consistency reinforces circadian rhythms, while careful attention to signals of hunger, fullness, and digestive comfort ensures that the environment of the body is ready for restorative cycles. Over time, these nutritional patterns harmonize with light exposure, movement, and environmental cues, producing a cohesive and powerful foundation for sleep. Ultimately, understanding the impact of nutritional timing is an invitation to respect the body's intelligence. Sleep is not a separate state to be forced, but a complex interplay of physiology, behavior, and environment. Food, in this context, is more than energy. It is information, a signal that communicates with hormones, neurotransmitters, and the nervous system. By choosing wisely, we provide the biochemical foundation upon which rest can flourish, transforming the act of eating into an ally of restorative sleep. It is a subtle, thoughtful, and scientifically grounded approach, demonstrating that even ordinary choices, when made with awareness, have extraordinary effects on our nightly renewal. Even when the body is aligned, the environment is optimized, movement is mindful, and nutrition is timed thoughtfully, the mind itself can remain an obstacle to sleep. The human brain is wired for vigilance. It is designed to anticipate, evaluate, and sometimes ruminate. Thoughts, worries, and memories often persist long after the body has signaled readiness for rest, creating a state of cognitive tension that can override even the most carefully orchestrated physiological preparations. Mental rituals, deliberate practices that calm and reset the nervous system, are essential tools in translating the body's readiness into actual sleep. The nervous system operates in two primary modes: the sympathetic, which governs alertness, stress, and energy mobilization, and the parasympathetic, which supports rest, repair, and recovery. Sleep requires a transition from the arousal-dominated sympathetic state into the restorative parasympathetic state. Mental rituals act as a bridge between these modes, signaling to the nervous system that vigilance can relax, that the world is safe, and that restorative processes may proceed. These rituals can take many forms, but they share common characteristics: repetition, focus, and intention. They create predictable neural pathways, conditioning the mind to anticipate and accept rest. One of the simplest and most effective techniques involves conscious attention to breath. Slow, deep inhalations followed by complete, gentle exhalations activate the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing heart rate, lowering cortisol, and calming the mind. When combined with visualization or mindful attention, the effect is amplified. The mind moves from scattered thoughts into a focused, reflective state, while the body receives biochemical signals that support sleep. Breath, in this sense, becomes both anchor and messenger, a tangible connection between conscious awareness and autonomic processes. Another form of mental ritual is structured reflection. Journaling, for instance, allows the mind to externalize worries, intentions, and unresolved thoughts. By writing down concerns, the brain can disengage from the loop of rumination, translating abstract mental tension into a concrete, contained form. This practice respects the cognitive component of sleep, acknowledging that mental clutter can physically impede rest. It is not avoidance. It is deliberate organization of thought, allowing the nervous system to recognize closure and safety. Meditative practices, including mindfulness and gentle body scans, offer similar benefits. By systematically directing attention to bodily sensations, heartbeat, or ambient sounds, the mind is trained to observe rather than react. This observational stance quiets the constant evaluation and prediction that often dominate nighttime cognition. As the mind settles, parasympathetic activity increases, heart rate variability improves, and the threshold for deep sleep is lowered. In this way, mental rituals operate not as intellectual exercises, but as physiological interventions, leveraging the mind's plasticity to facilitate the body's restorative needs. Cognitive rehearsal or visualization is another potent tool. Imagining peaceful environments, calm scenarios, or even sequences of gentle movement guides the nervous system into a state of readiness. These mental simulations do not merely distract. They actively engage neural pathways associated with relaxation, reducing arousal and signaling to the hypothalamus that alertness can diminish. Over time, these practices strengthen the brain's association between mental calm and sleep onset, creating a sustainable and self-reinforcing pattern. The power of ritual lies not only in its physiological effects, but also in its philosophical resonance. Rituals acknowledge that sleep is a process, not an event. They invite the individual to participate actively in rest, to respect the complexity of the body and mind, and to approach sleep with both curiosity and care. In this sense, the act of preparing mentally becomes contemplative practice, blending empirical understanding with reflective presence. Each repetition of breath, each mindful scan, each written reflection is an affirmation. The body is safe, the mind can release, and rest is allowed. Scientific studies support the efficacy of these practices. Research demonstrates that mindfulness-based interventions, cognitive behavioral strategies, and relaxation techniques significantly reduce sleep latency, increase deep sleep duration, and improve overall sleep quality. The mechanisms are clear. By reducing sympathetic activity, increasing parasympathetic tone, and restructuring mental patterns that maintain arousal, these rituals facilitate the biological and psychological conditions necessary for restorative sleep. They are not mere habits. They are precise, evidence-based interventions that bridge mind and body, Integration is key. Mental rituals are most effective when combined with environmental cues, movement, and nutritional timing. The body and mind respond to a coherent, multidimensional strategy. Light exposure sets circadian rhythm. The environment communicates safety. Movement signals completion. Nutrition primes hormones, and mental rituals ensure cognitive calm. Together, these elements create a seamless transition from wakefulness to sleep, allowing the complex interplay of systems, neurological, endocrine, musculoskeletal, and psychological, to converge in a state of restoration. Ultimately, mental rituals are an act of respect for the brain, for the body, and for the mysterious processes that define rest. They remind us that sleep is neither automatic nor trivial. It is an ongoing dialogue between biology and behavior, between consciousness and unconsciousness. By practicing rituals that calm and reset the nervous system, we honor this dialogue, guiding it with intention, insight, and compassion. Sleep becomes not just a biological necessity, but a cultivated experience, one that nurtures health, clarity, and resilience, and reconnects us with the rhythm of life that has evolved over millennia.